Okay, today we'll be taking a closer look at vertical angles and linear pairs. Vertical angles occur when we have two lines that intersect each other. The vertical angles are the opposite angles formed when these two lines intersect. So if you look at these two lines intersecting, angle 1 is opposite to angle 2. So angle 1 and 2 are considered vertical angles. Whereas angles 3 and angle 4 are opposite each other as well and are also vertical angles to each other. So we call those a vertical pair, and 1 and 2 are a vertical pair. If two angles are vertical angles, then they are congruent. So just by looking at these two lines crossing, I know that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. Another important definition to look at today is linear pair. A linear pair is two adjacent angles. So adjacent means they share a vertex and not only a vertex, but a ray. So these two angles are adjacent because they share this vertex and this ray. So if you highlight the angle, you see that angle 1 is right here, up there, and angle 2 is right here, going up that way. So these are adjacent angles. So linear pair is two adjacent angles whose non-common sides are opposite rays. So if you look at this side, it's red, and this side, that's blue. They are opposite rays because they come from this vertex, and they go opposite ways, forming a straight line. So a way to remember linear pairs, it's two angles, hence a pair, that forms a line, linear. So let's practice using some vertical angles and finding the value of x. Here we have two lines, AE and DC, that are intersecting at point B. This angle here is opposite this angle. In other words, they're across from each other, so they form a vertical pair. And we learned earlier in this lesson that if we have a vertical angles, then that angle ABC is congruent to angle DBE. So we know angle ABC is 5x minus 8. So here's the geometry setup. And then to solve, I do 5x minus 8 equals 3x plus 12. Now we just use algebra to solve. We move the smaller x, and to move a positive 3x, you subtract 3x from both sides, which gives you 2x minus 8 equals 12. You move a minus 8, you add 8 to both sides. So 2x equals 20. Divide by 2. So x equals 10. So with that said, ABC, all we need to do is 5 times 10 minus 8 gives me 50 minus 8, which equals 42. So measure of angle ABC is 42 degrees. Part 2 of this question is asking me to find angle ABD right here. If you notice, angles CBA and ABD are a linear pair because they share this vertex and this ray, so they're adjacent, and they form a straight line. We learned in another lesson that a straight line makes 180 degrees. So to find the missing piece, I do 180 minus 42, which equals 138. So measure of angle ABD is 138 degrees. Okay, let's try this one. On your own, try to at least do the geometry setup and at least try to start solving and see what you can do with it. So pause the video and give that a try. Okay, let's look at our geometry setup. I'm going to write my geometry setup up here so I have more room. We know that these are two lines that are intersecting, so opposite angles will be congruent. So I can say angle ABC is congruent to angle DBE. So let's plug in and solve. X squared minus 5x equals 6. Now, whenever I have an x squared and a middle x term, I need to put it in standard form. So everything needs to be on the same side. So I need to move this 6 on over. That gives me x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0 because nothing's left over here. Now, this is where I make my t-chart. I put my last number, -6 first, and my middle number, -5 second, and start looking for what times what gives me -6. Well, -3 and 2. Let's see, 3 and -2. -6 and 1, and 6 and -1. And I take this column over here and I add up. So -3 plus 2 is -1, 3 plus -2 is 1, -6 plus 1 is -5, and 6 plus -1 is 5. And you look for the row that matches the -5. So -5, I'm going to use this right here. So I get x minus 6, x plus 1 equals 0. And now I say x minus 6 equals 0. Add 6 to both sides, so x equals 6. X plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1, so x equals -1 here. Okay, so I plug in to find my values. Measure of angle ABC, well, that's just going to be 6. We know that. Because if DBE is 6, then ABC will be 6 degrees. And then DBE, well, it's already given you a 6 degrees. So it's pretty easy to actually find the angles. Finding X, this part up here, was the hard part. Okay, let's look at this problem. It's a little more complicated because you see there's more lines going on. We have a right angle down here. We have all these different lines intersecting here at point B. So we're going to assume that angle EBF equals 30 degrees. Measure of angle GBF equals 60 degrees. And we're going to find the following. So before we even look down there, let's go ahead and fill in what we know. We know that if we have two lines that cross, so CF and IE, that the opposite sides will be congruent. So this will be 30. AG and CF, opposite side would be here, so that would make this 60. Okay, so we at least have that part down. We also know that this is a 90-degree angle, so these two angles have to equal up to 90. Well, 90 minus 60 will give me 30. We have another vertical angle, so we get another 30 right here. And finally, this makes a straight line all the way from I to E. So these four angles will equal 180. So I do 180 minus 60 minus 30 minus 30, and I get 60 degrees. And then a vertical angle gives me 60 degrees. If you didn't get that, rewind it, look at it again, and see if you can follow the pattern that it does. So we're going to look for HBG. Easy, 30 degrees once we've labeled it. ABD, 30 degrees. And finally, DBE, 60 degrees. So it really helps if you label the picture first before you try to solve any of these. Take a second, see if you can find angle 1. Pause the video and see if you can find it, and then come back and check your work. Okay, welcome back. If you notice here, you have this line and this line that cross right here, and this angle is 90. So all you have to say is the opposite angle is 90 degrees as well. So angle 1 is 90 degrees. And the DCF, if you didn't find DCF, pause it and try that, and then come back. To find DCF, you see that line DA and FC intersect. So opposite angle, the 35, would be FCD, and so that would also be 35 degrees. Let's look at one more. CBA is right here, and GBF is right here. What do you notice about those two angles? What do they create? If you said vertical angles, then you're correct, and we know that vertical angles are congruent. So I can say measure of angle CBA equals the measure of angle GBF. So let's plug in. 3x plus 9 equals 5x plus 5. Subtract 5 from both sides. 3x plus 4 equals 5x, and subtract 3x. So 4 equals 2x, divide by 2, x equals 2. So if I plug in for GBF, I get 5 times 2, which is 10, plus 5 is 15. And these two angles equal 90, so 90 minus 15 is 75 degrees. So take a chance and go through that and see how you did with it, and review the vertical angles of linear pairs and make sure you have them down. Thank you for watching.